What's this? An action fantasy romance series that's somehow not also an isekai in some way? Hell has frozen over. It is a miracle. Ladies and gentlemen, we are standing before a miracle today. Feels good. Seriously though, I'm about to explain a bunch of problems I have with this series, but the lack of isekai alone is enough for me to forgive quite a bit. Quite a bit. This first reaction is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Assassin's Pride is a fantasy anime adapted by Studio EMT Squared from the light novel of the same name by Kei Amagi. It follows a fantasy universe where noble families gain the use of magic power, or more colloquially called mana, in order to fight various monsters called lycanthropes, I think. And I only say I think because it makes it sound like we're fighting werewolves, but they look like freaking pumpkin skeletons, so I don't know anymore. Our main character is a swordsman called Vampir, who you know is the lead character because nowadays it's basically illegal to have a protagonist swordsman without Kirito hair. Kufa is a talented assassin who is assigned to be the tutor of a noble girl named Melida. Melida? This girl. And to determine also if she has any actual aptitude to use mana at all. Apparently, she is quite a bit behind her peers in manifesting mana, which has led several prominent members of her family to believe that she might be an illegitimate child. Ooh, scandalous! And if that is the case, then Kufa is supposed to kill her. But we all know that's not gonna happen. Mostly because subtlety is not the strong suit of the writers here. Hell, our protagonist's name is Vampir, and the main monsters are called lycanthropes. Oh, the foreshadowing! But regardless of the fact that Mr. Vampir cares quite a bit about his job, despite that he somewhat despises and pities our heroine on the onset, all it takes is one instance where she is in mortal danger for him to decide, you know what? I'm gonna dedicate my entire life to this girl I just met. What kind of reversed Stockholm Syndrome nonsense is this? And so, not only does he protect her from harm, but he also gives her a potion that implants some of his own mana into her, fixing the problem of her not having any mana of her own. This is actually a really important moment for our characters. So important, in fact, that the show decides to just gloss over the whole procedure. The actual act of Vampir giving mana to our heroine isn't explained in any necessary way. He just happened to have a potion on him that would allow for a non-mana user to be able to use mana? You know how mana is the trait that's used to divide even the nobility into castes of importance in this society? Like, sure, she could have died, but still, you'd think that there's quite a few desperate souls in this world, potentially, that would gladly take that chance, and therefore, would not such a concoction have been under lock and key? And he just had one? Okay, I'll let it go. Because we're just scratching the surface here on where my problems lie with this story. Thankfully, though, most of them fall under one particular issue. There has been, at least so far, virtually no world building beyond vague mentions of things, and it's hard to take this fantasy world seriously when the show doesn't do it either. So there has been a decent amount of screen time at the top of episode 1, showcasing the world. This world that our characters live in, because it's a glass chandelier type place. But as of yet, the circumstances surrounding this haven't been explained or even proven to be necessary to the plot. This whole thing could be taking place in any city on Earth, and it wouldn't make a lick of difference. Also, the nobility have been shown to have magic powers, and apparently that's to hunt the lycanthropes. But already in just the first 3 episodes, we see a possible instance when a noble hired a powerful lycanthrope to do a bit of political maneuvering, which makes, trying to sell me on this big adversarial position between the two that much harder. You can't really make me believe that everyone hates and fears the lycanthropes if there are some out there that are perfectly fine with being able to use them for their own political gain. The act of even being able to use them for political gain means quite a bit, because obviously then there is a point high enough in the noble ranks where lycanthropes aren't really all that much of a threat. And if so, why the hell does being able to use mana and fight them matter all that much? Like, it'd be cool, sure, but enough to kill a family member because she can't perform? Perhaps these are just remnants of their society that the powerful nobles have left alone for tradition's sake, or to give themselves power over those slightly less noble of birth than they. The whole tournament section part of this story gives off this big cross-age vibe that, you know, that would explain a few things. I'd elaborate on that reference, but the last time I talked about cross-age on this channel, that video got banned, so let's avoid that, shall we? Really, with not being all that impressed with what the show has done so far and having very little idea with where it's actually going to go with its narrative, I almost struggle to figure out what watch value this show has for most people. But then, like our protagonist being a vampire, it's not actually all that hard to determine. Because if you like the idea of sudden romance for romance's sake, then there is quite a bit here between our main leads that might interest you. Melida has had quite a lot of strife in her life, from lycanthropes, other nobles, and even her own family. So seeing her overcome that might be worth the price of admission. With her mentor Vampir being a bit of an overpowered badass, though, I kind of hope that she's given some space to breathe, and that Vampir takes more of a stance of wanting to nurture her powers and abilities rather than steal the spotlight from under her. Otherwise, what I already find to be repetitive and predictable will become even more so. So do I recommend it? Not really. There's too much here that makes me feel like the light novel might have had a better time at explaining a bunch about how this world works, while the anime seems to be more for those that either already know the backstory or don't care about it as much. The action scenes are quite well done, but not enough to base my entire recommendation on them. But if the idea of a young girl fighting against pretty much everyone in her life to try and find some sort of meaning intrigues you, then yeah, give the show a few episodes. Otherwise, you might be better off just to pass on it. Thanks for joining me on this very quick discussion. There will be streaming links for Assassin's Pride down in the description should you require them, as per usual. And let me know down in the comments what you are watching this season. And perhaps if there is time, we will be making a video on that, hopefully in the future. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.